Ted Godwin.
Good afternoon, folks. My name is Ted Godwin, Vietnam 69 and 70, 554th Red Horse Combat Engineers. Most of y'all in here haven't had the experience I have as on the ground boots and fighting and the death that took place around you. You haven't been traumatized by this like I have. And of course, there's many, many other veterans than me who've been traumatized by this a lot. I've been smoking weed now for 53 years. In Vietnam one night, we got attacked. I was drunk. I couldn't hold a gun steady enough to shoot back, period. The guy right next to my shoulder had half his head blown off. I had to help remove his body. I had to help pick up bodies, and when he picked up, guts fell out the back of them and finished stuff. And the worst thing for me ever was in Da Nang. I had to kill a 6-year-old kid because he was riding a bicycle throwing a hand grenade. You don't run up and tap on your shoulder, don't do this. I tried the depression drugs that the VA gave me. They weren't really working too good. And they made changes. When they made the changes, the next thing I know, my mind changed. I'm shoplifting. And once my wife's a nurse, we finally figured this out. I let them keep sending me drugs back to throw them in the cabinet. I haven't had a problem since. But because of them 3 times, I'm now classified as a felon. Everything was less than $100. What I use was marijuana. Whenever I get the feeling in a bad situation, these memories come back, I smoke it to calm me down. And I don't do this stuff at my house. Not out here in the open where everybody's out. Recreational marijuana, I mean, that was back in the 70s and the 60s and that nature there. That stuff's old stuff. I look for what can help me medically wise. And the smoking part, I get instant results within 5 to 10 minutes of causing me to calm down. Also where I can sometimes go around crowds and stuff about anything that set me off. I was a member of something, a combat veterans group, and also had the Columbia Combat Veterans Group. And when I didn't smoke, whatever, and went around to people said the wrong things, next thing I know, I've been restrained twice because I was getting ready to light some people up. And the weed helps keep me in a calm state. And then I have sleep apnea. I tried the CPAP thing, that don't work because I can't get rid of all them things on me. I end up tearing them off during the middle of the night. So to try to get me the drugs, all right, when I get up the next morning, you know, I take my first cup of coffee and an hour or later, I'm like, hey man, give me some more coffee, you know, they just ain't there. So I went back and I got off weed for 1.5 years for them to see how things work. When I went back to smoking, I would sleep from 5 to 7 hours and not wake up during the middle of the night 3 and 4 times, even when I took their drugs in this nature. And a lot of veterans are like me. Some of them are not willing to get up and become forceful to try to explain this stuff to you. And for me, I had to come down here for all the veterans who wouldn't do this because we're faced with this. And Vietnam was such a different warfare as compared to Afghanistan, Kuwait, or the Iraq war, completely different. We lost 58,000 guys versus only a couple thousand guys for each one of those. And our war was right here next to us. He walked right by Charlie. He could reach out and touch you. And that's how the jungle warfare was. And we were faced with that. And a lot of these guys at nighttime, they learned to quit drinking at nighttime because they couldn't function being drunk, and they all went to smoking weed. And this, it's helped me get by for so many years. I don't push my ideas on other people. It's left to you. Some people who do try it for the first couple times, yeah, it will mess your mind up because you get paranoid.
I'm gonna have to interrupt you now. I think some members could have questions for you.
All right.
Okay. Any questions or comments? Mr. Jones?
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Was it Mr. Goodwin?
No, Ted Godwin.
Godwin, Mr. Godwin, yep. Okay, thank you for being here, sir, and thank you for your service
to our
country.
sir.
Have you discussed, if this bill was to pass, for example, I mean, have you discussed medical marijuana with a doctor or with any?
I've discussed with my doctor at the VA, and she's not too much on board about it because of our own personal beliefs and this nature here. And like I say, I don't want I don't want recreation. I want the part that's going to help me sleep and keep me down so I don't get, I wouldn't say violent, but get blowed up.
Yeah, and the reason I'm asking that, I'm curious because with the use how you've been using it, smoking it, if this was to be put into law, into effect, of course, it allows vapors, oils, edibles, those kind of things. And so I didn't know if medically, how that would be treated for
I would
you.
have to kind of learn how to use a vapor because, sure, sometimes I'll say I smoke a joint, but I smoke a little thing, what they call a sneaker toke. It's about the size of that right there. And what it is, when you light it up, as soon as you light it up and you quit sucking on it, it goes out and put it in your pocket and going about it. It's not a case where you got to put out the ashes where you're going to put the joint. And I got tired of doing all that stuff there. So I use that little thing there, and it just helps me out so much better. And eventually, if the medical part does pass, I would like to see a point where we could smoke it or where we could grow in our house, not outside, in the house, 2 to 3 plants that would help us out financially of trying to buy it on the street. Because like I said, lately there's people like with guys down in Florida that died from the stuff they took down there. And and right now I'm hearing a lot of people talking about the synthetic marijuana, that this stuff is being put in there. But if you can control your own self, it's not there.
Yeah, and I think that discussion over recreational, I mean, I can tell you I'm completely against a recreational
I'm just
approval of
saying,
marijuana.
I'm just looking for what.
But as far as this bill goes, I mean, from everything I'm seeing in it, it puts guidelines into place, that aren't there currently in many ways. So thank you.
Okay, Representative Matthews.
Thank you,
Yeah,
Mr.
Mr.
Chair. Mr. Godwin, I want to thank you so much for your testimony. It's very moving to me because I have members in my immediate family who have described exactly what you're saying. Not necessarily just the military part, but having to shoot children. I think it does something different to you. And I've experienced that firsthand where, even talking about it's not the same. Like that for me just hits so close to home. My heart goes out to you. Thank you so much for your bravery and your testimony. And one thing I found out recently that I did not know, that if you're not past a certain disability level, you don't even get free mental health drugs from the VA. And so a lot of people forego it because they can't afford for that to come out of what they are already paying. And I found that to be quite a disservice. And so we're almost cutting you off at 2 passes if you're not past a certain percentage level for mental health medicine. So thank you for your testimony.
Thank you. Like I said, I'm 100% totally permanently, and 70% of that's PTSD.
Okay, thank you, Representative Hart. Chris Hart.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to say thank you for waiting patiently. You've been here since the very beginning this morning, and I appreciate your patience.
Come a long way.
That I do. And a lot of folks, when they hear the word PTSD, it just sounds like an acronym and it sounds like some words. And because they don't see blood running out of your eyes and all kind of mucus foaming out of your mouth and out of your nose, a lot of folks don't think it's real. But it's real. It's very real. And we say it all the time to our veterans, thank you for your service.
Appreciate it.
But if you go down to Finley Park, you'll see how we don't thank our veterans for their service. That park is littered full of veterans. And I say littered because that's what we do to them. We throw them away. We don't help them. Finley Park right now is full of veterans who suffer from PTSD. And this is not something that I'm telling you that I've heard about, someone told me about. This is something that I know personally. I served in Saudi Arabia in 1990. I was 18 years old. I saw people shot, killed, maimed. I worked in the hospital. I've seen people with their whole entire buttocks blown off. Nothing. And they're still alive. And they're suffering. I saw this with my own eyes, not something someone told me. I was 18 years old.
Hollering and screaming is involved, and this really gets to you.
Right now, for the longest, I did what one of my colleagues said. I grinned and I bared it. Because I felt, I'm a veteran, I'm a soldier. I'm an expert in hand grenades. Back then, the M16 rifle. I don't need any help, but I decided to go get help last year. And I got an impairment rating for PTSD. So I know it's real. So a lot of people, they hear you say those words and they hear you say the acronym, but they don't think it's real because they don't see you hobbling and they don't see you whining, they don't see you moaning. They see you grinning, bearing it.
Well, they don't understand that this, the PTSD. I help veterans with claims and stuff and been successful in getting some of them 100%. Like I got one sitting on 70, 80, and 90 right now. Is a lot of them, you talk to other veterans, they think you call for, have you tried for PTSD? No. They think it mentally that it means you're crazy. It don't mean it's crazy. It means you've been traumatized by what you've seen, what you've touched in this nature. And they didn't understand that. And like with my part of the situation where I had to kill the young kid, when I came back to the United States, in that nature, I heard guys tell me about when they got to airports, the way the public treated them. Somebody had to go in the bathroom and change out of clothes because the uniform was causing problems. And my dad he owned a half of a Ford dealership. And I come back within 2 weeks when he found out I'd killed a kid, get my butt out the house. They don't understand that.
They don't understand it. And let me tell you, a lot of veterans will tell you, a lot of them, if they had a choice, they'll take a physical impairment as opposed to something dealing with their mind, the mental and psychological trauma that they deal with on a daily basis. So I hear all of my colleagues and I hear everyone always say, they see a veteran and say, thank you for your service. Well, here's one of the ways that we can show our veterans that we really appreciate their service and sacrificing everything, their life, their family, everything that they gave for this country. Here's what we can do. We can say thank you, not with the words out of our mouth, but with the vote for a yes to say we appreciate your service by voting for this bill. Thank you,
I'm in
sir.
hopes out of this that, that what y'all had on this bill, that you include the PTSD so I can be included so I can get the medical part of me having to go out in the street and buy it because, like I say, you don't know what you're basically getting unless you grow it yourself in that nature. So, and then one time I think when the bill was mentioned, they said something about PTSD, but the last couple of times I've seen it, nothing's been said about PTSD. And there's millions of us guys in the United States who are suffering from this, from not just Vietnam, but the other war zones in this nature. And until you people, like my brothers and those, they think I'm just drawing a check, ain't nothing wrong with you, the whole work. They don't have to live my life every day. They don't have to know, it may not affect me every day, but it affects me a lot. And it really gets you down, not so much about yourself, but gets you down about everything that's happening around you now, and that's part of PTSD. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Any other comments or questions? Thank you so much. We appreciate your time.
Appreciate y'all's time and that.